Alright, welcome everybody. This is a modern video, one of the first on the channel. It's been a while since I've played matches of modern, and today, by the time of this recording, I was playing on MTGO Masters, and I signed up with some cool decks, and I wanted to take them for a spin. So first, I played my Soultide Crabvine deck. I 3-2'd a league. It was cool to get some practice a little bit, brushing off some dust and figuring out some interactions. And up next was this cool Scapeshift deck that I saw Marco Del Pivo play yesterday and posting his list. So I basically looked at the list, made some minor tweaks, and decided to sign up with it for the MTGO Masters elimination pod. So let's have a look at this deck. Why is this deck viable? So this deck is a ramp strategy that wants to use the combination of Valakut and Scapeshift to end the game on the spot. Recent printings that improve the strategy is a card like Wish, because this deck usually struggled a little bit with either finding Scapeshift or just the downside of actually drawing Scapeshift. So the fact that the flexibility of this card basically just improves the deck's consistency, because maybe you get, I don't know, a Valakut or a Pyroclasm or a Veil of Summer out of the sideboard, and it will improve your situation over drawing an additional copy of Scapeshift that doesn't really do much aside from winning the game when it's all said and done. So Veil Land is a big one for this deck as well. You can tutor them with Fetch Lands and Farseek. Flare of Cultivation is also a big one. It allows your Arboreal Grazer to turn into a Cultivate for free, which is part of most of your explosive draws. Sometimes the name of the game is Speed, and that is a card that grants you speed. Last up is the One Ring, which is basically your Time Walk card advantage spell in all in one package. And I think enough good words has been said about that card specifically. So why is this deck viable right now? So I don't play Modern a lot, but I did research the format quite a bit for a recent paper event that I did coverage for, the Nordic Masters. And in that research, it showed that there are multiple different Ugin's Labyrinth decks in the metagame right now. And they're all kind of focused on not folding to hate, playing the best against Harbinger, Blood Moon, Break the Ice, stuff like that. And not very focused on actually finishing the game. So this gives this deck a lot of time to just Goldfish on turn 4 and end the game. So I think that's the main motivation for this deck to get picked up. Couple of flex slots in the main deck. I decided to use him on double Pyroclasm, mainly because of Energy being the best deck in the format, or at least the deck to beat. My sideboard, out of actual sideboard cards, has 5 cards against big mana decks, with some crossover here against Storm. I like that a lot. I added the Torment's Crypt to have a 3-mana hate card against Graveyard. Valakut can sometimes, get tutored by Wish. Sometimes this is your way to beat stuff like, I don't know, Unmoored Ego, extraction effects of that kind. Same with the Scapeshift in the sideboard. This basically insulates you against those cards. Another copy of Pyroclasm, couple of Atraxas Fall, which is interesting. This is basically just a glorified disenchant. Sometimes you kill a flyer. But most of the time, this is a disenchant for annoying cards like Blood Moon. And then I just decided to play 4 copies of Veil of Summer, which is just your bread and butter against hand disruption and counter spells, which are the most normal kind of hate to be facing. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to go through the deciding game in each of my matches that I played in the league. So this is going to be a replay video, not actual gameplay. I was kind of, casually just jamming through a league, and once I got the trophy, I promised to do a replay video at the very least, so this is what we're doing. So yeah, thanks so much for watching so far, and see you for match 1. Okay, round 1, game 2. Looks like I'm on the draw here, so I won game 1. I'm playing against Izzet Control, which I'm actually not sure if they have Blood Moon or not. I didn't sideboard for it, so let's hope they don't. It looks like I trimmed my Grazers alongside the Pyroclasms and added 4 Veil of Summer to basically try and win Counter Wars. Not much to say about this opener. It's fine. The game is going to go on for a while. I can make my land drops, hopefully build myself up to natural Valakut, even though the Forest is kind of annoying here. Veil of Summer is big for if I draw, stuff like the One Ring or a Scapeshift several turns from now. It's going to be awesome. Opponent leads on fetch land, and I draw forest, which is not a good draw. Also worth noting is I can find a surveil land end of turn here, so if I have another land, I can bin it, so very, very powerful. The opponent passes the turn with 2 mana, which is always curious. I surveil into a 1 ring, so that's going to come in handy later. Right now, I want to fire off the Explore, and basically, it's going to be hard for the opponent to counter it. I actually don't expect my opponent to counter it, but I get surprised here. My opponent actually counters it, which is a move that makes sense if my opponent's mana is tied up for future turns. So countering the early Explorer will give the opponent kind of a Time Walk-ish effect and free up some mana later on. I actually draw Dryad here, so now I have 2 options. I can either jam the Dryad, which is fine, you know, but my opponent showed Counterspell, my opponent showed Archmage's Charm, so what I'm actually going to do here is play tapped Vellicut and set up for a Veil of Summer turn. That is especially potent because I have a double Vellicut draw, so Dryad is very, very awesome here. Let's see. My opponent makes their land drop, Cascade Bluffs. So I believe this is some kind of Drake strategy. I can't remember the full name of that card. Cascade Bluffs back in the day usually meant like you wanted to cast Cryptic Command and Anger of the Gods out of the same mana base. So let's see what this Dryad can do. Okay, Sink into Stupor, interestingly enough, gets around Veil, so I'm just going to take my licks here. Let's see, Iteration is cast, but no land has been hit. And here's Crackling Drake. Okay. My opponent has the Anticipate Expressive Iteration, so not making the land drop, which is very good news for me. I have 2 good cards here, and I'm relatively sure I can resolve one of them. So what I do here is, if I remember correctly, I play out the Dryad with the intention of doming my opponent for a lot. Let's see. If I'm a good player, I play out my Dryad. Okay, thank you. If I'm a good player, I play out my Dryad before I play out my lands to basically just conceal information. So, Counterspell here. I play my 1-mana Cryptic Command, as I like to call it, and Scapeshift is a great draw here. Dryad resolves, so I can go play tap land, and I can Vellicut ×2 on my opponent's face. That means even if the Dryad dies, I still dealt 6 damage in the process. And it looks like my opponent has no choice but to kill off the Dryad. Otherwise, I just lose straight up to a fetch land. So, pretty easy game here. I cast my Scapeshift with Veil backup. Yeah, my opponent even realizes this before my actual Scapeshifts. They saw the writing on the wall, and we're off to a 1-0 start. All right, round 2 is upon us here. I'm playing against Domain Zoo. Looks like I've boarded in a couple of Disenchant effects and trimmed the Pyroblast. Pretty standard stuff. The Disenchant effects can kill Naked Signs of Draco. The Disenchant effects can kill the Leyline enchantment, so not much to say there. Not much to say either about my opener here. This is game 3, and I am on the play. Opponent asks where to find this YouTube, which is always cool. I always love getting those messages. So, as I talked about in the deck tech, Surveillance are huge improvements to a strategy like this. It makes Farseek a actual straight-up fire magic card. Oh, here's Atrax's Fall that I actually put to the yard. So the reason why I'm doing this is, with a hand like this, I'm looking to be, explosive. I can't afford, killing my opponent's stuff. Well, at this point, it's even hypothetical if they even have it, right? But if I kill my opponent's stuff, but I don't make my land drops all the way, then it's just not worth it. So this deck wants to have interaction when, on top of my normal game plan, so to speak. So, cast a Farseek. I don't get Stubborn Denialed. I actually put a land to the yard there because I can go double Farseek next turn. So, pretty interesting run out there. My opponent now has Domain and casts Territorial Kavu as a 5/5. I draw a second copy of Scapeshift, which may or may not be powerful. Let's see. It looks like... Did I make a mistake here? No, maybe I'm fine. I find Stomping Grounds because I'm not gonna, benefit from the surveilling anyway because I'm casting another Farseek. Note that I go for a basic forest there to save a little bit of life, and also when you have 5 mountains in play, you don't care about the next one, right? Then you want to leave as many mountains in your deck as possible. This has been true for more than a decade out of this deck. I mill over Explore here because Explore isn't isn't the same as a 7th land. Then it leaves it up to chance whether I draw it. So I'd rather give myself the chance to draw Farseek or Flare of Cultivation here and kill on the spot. Looks like the opponent is commencing the beatdown and passing the turn. So, well, what can I do here? My opponent probably plays Stubborn Denial, but I have 2 Scapeshifts, and I'm not dying next turn. So I'm just going to fire off a Scapeshift, and it looks like it works. So I have 7 lands. I can't do anything fancy. I just go for 6 lands here. If my opponent has some kind of life gain, they live to see another day. If they don't, the game's over. And it turns out the game's over. And that puts us at 2-0. Pretty smooth start here, and just like riding a bicycle, basically just executing my own game plan and winning as fast as possible. And a lot of decks just aren't, very well equipped to deal with this kind of strategy. So let's see if we can keep it up. Okay, round 3, it looks like I'm on the draw here. I'm playing against Rhinos, which is an interesting one that I haven't faced since back when Violent Outburst was legal. It looks like I have, once again, I've trimmed 2 Pyroblasts and 2 Cups of Wish, and I've added the Veil of Summers because I expect my opponent to play Force of Negation as their main way to interact. So let's see. What do we think about this hand? This hand is actually incredibly slow. What if my opponent goes turn 3 Rhinos? It's probably not that strong. Let's see what I do here. Maybe because of the District, it's a good keep, because the District lets me, I draw on turn 1, then I manipulate my turn 2 draw, just like looking 3 cards down for a ramp spell, and I think that's okay. Oh, and I'm mulliganing. Okay, well, yeah, I guess there goes that logic, and now I have a not very exciting hand, but I still have access to the Surveil. Scapeshift, that's the thing about this deck. Scapeshift is necessary, but it's never, a good draw early on. So right now, what are my best draws? Like Ramp or Arboreal Grazer, I guess? Yeah, Arboreal Grazer is probably a good one. Let's see. District into Dryad. I actually think I get rid of that. The Dryad is a 3-drop, just like Flare, but I'm really hoping to find something to play this turn. Fire Ice kind of steals my turn here. Very good play for the opponent. Not against my particular hand, but just in general, negating me the turn 2 ramp, so I'm playing off curve. Here's a key moment of the match, I remember. My opponent has sideboarded into Inevitable Betrayal, which would be absurd if I had Primeval Titan, but I don't. I just have Dryad of Elysian Grove. So, pretty nice for me. Flare, not the best draw. Very, very redundant here. I'm ramping. And my opponent, just imagine these were Rhinos, I would be in very big trouble, but instead they're 2-mana creatures. My opponent is asking me to play faster, which can be hard sometimes if you have other stuff to do. Let's see. The One Ring is cast here and gets countered, so that's kind of how it goes. The One Ring being a must counter is cool to clear the way for Scapeshift if I don't die in the meantime. So let's see here. My opponent plays Murktide Regent, I believe. Murktide Regent basically putting me dead next turn, so I need to draw something now. My opponent's at 17, and I can only go up to 6 lands, so I need to draw a Farseek, a Arboreal Grazer. Well, there you go. There's a Arboreal Grazer, which lets me get to 7 lands in play. I can even go to 8 lands thanks to the Flare. I basically play this Flare in the off chance that my opponent wants to counter this one, and then I can still win the game. Obviously, that's not going to work very often, but it's quote-unquote free to do. And here's Scapeshift from 8 lands, and here you have 2 options. You can go for Valakut times 2 and 6 mountains, or you can go for Valakut and 7 mountains. And after doing this, I actually regretted it, because if my opponent randomly has Solitude white card onto the Murktide, I'm not winning this game. So I actually think I exposed myself to 0.1% risk, but when you have the option to not do it, you should definitely not do it. I will emerge victorious here, but it's just something to keep track of, that once in the blue moon, you'll get punished for kind of sleeping at the wheel. But yeah, with that being said, we're 3-0. Let's keep up the winning. All right, let's see here. I believe I'm playing against Eldrazi this round. Yep, this is game 3. The Obsidian Charmaw kind of gives it away. Let's see. I've cut Pyroclasms, Flare, and a Grazer. Let's see. Is that true? And a copy of Wish for 5 anti-big mana cards, those being 3 Charmaws and a couple of Damping Sphere. This hand looks fine to me. Nothing crazy here. No fast ramp. Would have highly preferred that Dryad to be a Farseek, but that's how it goes sometimes. Being on the play, I think, it's acceptable. The opponent with a Multi 5, which definitely helps me here. See, they're on the more aggressive version with it that heralds the end. Let's see if we can draw something spicy. We can't. And that means turn 3 Charmaw is going to be my play. I was pretty soft to Thought-Knot Seer this turn. Here's Disruptor Flute, and look at this. My opponent actually names Obsidian Charmaw. That is pretty heads-up play. They're basically saying, why would my opponent keep a hand that doesn't do anything turn 2? And the answer to that question is Obsidian Charmaw, so very cool play by the opponent. Let's see if I find a cool line here with my extra Dryad. Looks like I'm getting my extra land drop in, and then firing off the Flare of Cultivation, which ensures me my 6th land, and if my math is correct, if I draw land off the top, I have lethal. Let's see. Opponent attacks for 8 here. Very scary line. So I draw Flare, so I'm basically trying to figure out if I can do anything cool with, you know, playing Dryad, then play my land drop, but I actually didn't know how it would work with additional land drops, so I end up just going for the Charmaw line, which pretty sure can't kill me, but maybe that's my famous last words. If I Charmaw my opponent's Eldrazi Temple here, I believe I'm bridging into the next turn, even if my opponent has a Dismember, because that will soak up their mana. I believe I saw Dismember one of the other games, so it was on my radar here. Here my opponent can attack me down to 2. And from here, I believe it's rather simple to go Flare, land drop, Scapeshift. Oh, let's see. Okay, so I go Dryad, free roll. Okay, so, well, I spent 3 mana to cast my Flare for free, for no reason, I guess. Here's the Forest. And here's the lethal Scapeshift that my opponent can do nothing about. So, pretty smooth sailing here, as you can see. Not many, you know, super tight decisions, but sometimes you just want to get the job done with a deck like this. And today was definitely one of those days. Let's have a look at how the 5th match went. All right, match 5, and I believe this is also against Eldrazi. And in the meantime, I've kind of figured out that I wanted to keep the Boreal Grazer and Flare package, and instead I'm trimming a Dryad and an Explorer. So we tried to learn as we went here. I'm actually not sure what the correct thing is, but I do enjoy to have the nut draw of Grazer and Flare. So yeah, I mean, I have no idea really. The opponent's on the play here, which is pretty scary. I have the turn 2 ramp. Let's see what I kept there. I think I clicked too fast. My opponent has 4 mana, but they're passing the turn. I have actually no idea what that means. I go for a Farseek here. Surveil a Stomping Ground into the graveyard. Obsidian Charmaw is coming down next turn, but maybe bad things can happen. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. What did the opponent keep here? Maybe you guys can let me know. What makes their hand good? Is it mainly just you have all the mana in the world and you're playing from the top of your deck, and that's good enough? Or what kind of logic are we looking at here? Wow, okay. I draw Boreal Grazer, which is an amazing draw, because now I can go 2 mana Charmaw. Then I can go Grazer, put Valakut into play. Also worth noting is my opponent would have to respond right here. Otherwise, I have priority back and Flare is online. So I end up putting together the Monkey plus Flare combo on turn 3, and that's pretty darn strong. I'm now at 5 mountains, which makes every mountain into a lightning bolt. My opponent keeps passing the turn. This is so weird. So what I should do here is play the One Ring before making my land drop, because I don't know what I want to do yet. Okay, that's also what I do. Draw right away, and I hit a Farseek. So I believe what I do here is I dome my opponent for 3, and I play a fetch land to have a little bit of flexibility. There's no reason to bolt my opponent now when I can kind of have it in my back pocket instead. Looks like my opponent's just doing a bunch of nothing here, which is super weird. Even playing out mana source number 6 and passing the turn. I deal 3. I put Grazer to the yard. And here, any ramp spell will kill my opponent. I think I start by attacking here. Okay, I draw first. Makes sense. Then I attack my opponent down to 6 and layer, putting a mountain into play. And yeah, that's just game over. So funnily enough, the Dismember does not help the opponent here because it costs 4 life. And that's the same as a Charmaw attack. My opponent can basically only hope that I'm drawing air at this point. But it's, well, when air is not lands, it's too much to wish for against this deck. Because all spells are finishing off my opponent, and all lands are as well. So pretty smooth run here. I was very happy with how this deck played. I also played it in MTGO Masters. Didn't go as well. I played against Infect and got run over. You should definitely go catch that VOD. We had awesome games throughout the show. I highly enjoy doing commentary on those as well. Just, you know, getting some good chemistry going and communicating what's happening in the game, talking a little bit about old times, and just, yeah, in general, I love talking about Magic as it turns out, just as much as I enjoy playing it. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is my first Modern video in ages, and yeah, I don't get to play it that much these days. Maybe that should change. Maybe I should switch it up a little bit here and there, but yeah, no promises made, but yeah, I just want to thank you so much for following along on my journey. It's fun to play Magic every day. It's fun to interact on the comments most of the time, and one step forward every day. And yeah, I really enjoy that process. With that being said, I also enjoy getting a sweet trophy with my old favorite Modern deck. So yeah, all in all, great day. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.